In our family, my cousin Daniel was less a person and more a projection screen. Every holiday, the adults took turns shining light on him. His first car, a German sedan at 16, was parked at the end of my aunt's driveway like a trophy. His college acceptance was announced with printed copies of the letter. His internships came with backstories about connections and drive, as if success were genetic. My parents clapped politely at the right moments. I did too. We were the practical branch of the family. My dad ran a small accounting practice. My mom taught at a public school. We didn't struggle, but we didn't perform wealth either. Compared to my uncle's real estate developments and country club memberships, we were modest. At Thanksgiving, Daniel always sat near the head of the table, close to my uncle. Business updates would flow between them like a private language. The rest of us listened. I stopped trying to compete in my early 20s. Whenever I mentioned a project I was working on, it would be met with advice or subtle correction. That's risky. You should talk to Daniel about scaling. Real businesses need infrastructure. So I stopped mentioning anything. What they didn't know was that I had started a logistics software company with 2 friends from college. We worked out of a rented warehouse space that smelled like dust and burnt coffee. We didn't have investors at first. We had contracts, small ones, then larger ones. Growth was slow, then sudden, then complicated. There were months I barely slept, years where I said no to vacations because cash flow mattered more. I never hit it out of strategy. I hit it because I was tired of being compared. By the time we closed a major acquisition deal, valuing the company at $25 million, Daniel was launching his third, disruptive venture, backed largely by family loans. I didn't post about the sale. I didn't issue a press release beyond what was required. The industry knew. My family didn't. Until Thanksgiving. It happened between the turkey and dessert. My phone buzzed with a congratulatory text from an old mentor. I glanced at it, probably smiled without realizing. My aunt noticed. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yeah, just work stuff." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "Still doing that warehouse thing?" There it was. "Something like that," I said. My younger cousin, who actually followed tech news, looked up from her phone. "Wait. Is this you?" she asked, turning her screen toward me. It was an industry article summarizing the acquisition. The number wasn't hidden. 25 million. The table went quiet in stages. First confusion, then calculation. Daniel reached for the phone. His expression shifted as he read, not disbelief. Recognition. "That's valuation," he said quickly. "Not cash." "It's both," I replied, evenly. My uncle's fork clattered against his plate. "Since when?" "Last quarter." "And you didn't think to mention this to the family?" The question wasn't about inclusion. It was about hierarchy. "I didn't think it was necessary," I said. Daniel laughed, sharp and humorless. "You run some mid-level software firm, and suddenly you're too important for us." I didn't respond immediately. The room felt smaller. "It's not mid-level," my younger cousin murmured. Daniel ignored her. "You know how much infrastructure it takes to build something real, to employ people, to manage assets. We have 80 employees," I said, "and long-term contracts." He stared at me like I'd switched languages. My uncle's face flushed. "This is what I don't like," he said, voice rising. "Secrecy. Arrogance. You sit here every year acting small." "I wasn't acting," I said. The word small lingered. Daniel stood abruptly. "So what, we're supposed to clap now? Is that it?" "No one's asking you to," I replied. That's when my uncle threw his drink. Not at me, just down onto the table in a frustrated sweep that sent glasses tipping and cranberry sauce sliding toward the edge. "Unbelievable," he muttered. Daniel pushed his chair back so hard it scraped against the hardwood. "This is ridiculous," he said, already moving toward the hallway. He didn't look at me again before he left. The silence that followed wasn't triumphant. It was brittle. And then, my mother did something she had never done before. She set her napkin down carefully and looked directly at my uncle. "He didn't act small," she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it didn't waver. You just never asked. Everyone turned toward her. For years, she continued, you've compared them, out loud, at this table, Daniel's cars, Daniel's schools, Daniel's ventures. My son stopped sharing because every time he did, it was measured against someone else. My father nodded quietly beside her. This didn't happen overnight, she said. He worked. Without loans. Without family backing. Without applause. No one interrupted. It wasn't dramatic. It was factual. My uncle's posture shifted. Not defeated. Just confronted. I didn't realize, he began, then stopped. Because realization was the point. My aunt dabbed at the spilled drink with paper towels. The mundane act made everything feel even more real. Daniel didn't come back to the table. Dessert was served in near silence. No one congratulated me formally. No toast was made. The turkey still needed carving. Life insisted on continuing. When I stood to leave later that evening, my mother squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you, she said. It wasn't performative, it was overdue. As I walked to my car, I didn't feel victorious. I felt exposed. Success hadn't fixed the comparison. It had just flipped it. And flipping it didn't make it healthier. Daniel texted me days later. Short. Defensive. Something about inflated valuations and market bubbles. I replied with a simple, hope you're doing okay. Not to be superior. Just because I knew what it felt like to sit at that table and feel smaller than you were. Thanksgiving will be different now. Maybe fractured, maybe quieter. But for the first time, I wasn't the contrast, I was simply myself. And that was enough.